Hey, what's up YouTube? Today we're going to be doing the oil pan swap on the Trailblazer. And last night I already got it on some of these plastics. And I put it on some jack stands and I laid some cardboard so I could be down there. And these are the parts we're going to be using. This is the dipstick. This is the oil pan. And the pickup tube. We also had to get the AC bracket. So we're going to start off by, oh, and I also got some oil. We're going to start off by removing this plastic piece right here, this one, and it has 4 bolts, and then we're going to drain the oil. So once the oil is drained, we're going to remove this cross member right here. I see that it has 2 bolts here, and then it has 2 over there, and it has a couple of them in the back. Alright, so these are 15s. And then there's 3 more back here, and these are 15s as well. So there's 3 on this side and 3 on that side. So I'm gonna remove those and then I'll put you guys back on. We just finished removing all 3 bolts. I just put them back so I won't, lose track of where I took them out from. And this is the piece that we removed. So this has to get modified so it can have clearance for the Corvette oil pan up here. Okay, so now I'm gonna start taking these bolts off, and I'm using a 13/16. There's 2 on this side, on the driver's side, and 2 on the passenger side. And then I'm gonna remove these 2 bolts also. These are 15. Yeah, they're 15. So I'm gonna remove all that. And then, from my understanding, is we're gonna have to drop the rack and pinion on the passenger side. One thing I forgot to mention is that this is a 2-wheel drive, so there is less things that are required to be removed. And so I'm gonna get to this, and hopefully that clears up enough space to remove the oil pan. Oh, okay, we're at the front of the Trailblazer, and we're gonna unbolt this 10mm from the oil pan, which is holding the harness to it. And then we're going to unbolt the 15mm that's holding the compressor to the oil pan. Alright, so I got that bolt out and I put it back in place. I just removed the harness from the actual bolt, and then I removed the 15mm from a bolt from the AC compressor, and the one back here is also removed. It's just pulled back all the way. So I'm gonna have to go up there and loosen up the other 2 15mm. But before I do that, I'm gonna unbolt this side of the passenger side of the rack and pinion, so I could drop down on the passenger side. And once I do that, then I'll go up there and unbolt the rest of the AC compressor, and then the oil pan should be able to be removed. Just remove all the bolts around and then drop it. But let me get to this real quick and I'll put you guys back on. Okay, so up here on the passenger side, it's gonna be a little more complicated than I thought. So I'm gonna have to reach the compressor bolts from up here, and I'm gonna end up removing this cold air intake, and possibly moving this reservoir out of the way, the windshield wiper tank out of the way, and see what else I need to remove. So let me unbolt this real quick and I'll put you guys back on. Now that I removed the reservoir for the washer fluid for the windshield, now we can see that there's more room to reach in for the AC compressor bolts. There's one here, and then I think there's one back there. So I'm gonna try to get those loosened up. I might have to remove this heat shield, which is already loose, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So this bolt was loose, and then I'm gonna try to fit something in there, loosen up those 2 bolts. All right, so there was no luck removing that bolt from the compressor. Even when I removed this heat shield, I still had no room. I removed all 3 bolts. I pushed the heat shield back and I still had no room, so I'm gonna leave it alone. I put everything back over here. But what I am gonna do before we move to the bottom is loosen up, well, completely remove the bolt for the dipstick for the oil pan, since I'm here already. And then we're gonna go to the bottom and remove all the 10mm bolts for the oil pan. This is the Corvette oil pan. So I removed all the bolts already. I'm gonna just clean it up once I'm about to put it in. Spray it down with brake cleaner, and then we should be good to go. All right, so I removed the bolt from here. It's right here. So it's facing, the threaded part is facing the front of the vehicle. So I pulled it all out. I dropped down the rack and pinion. So now I'm gonna start removing all these 10mm bolts. And I removed this bolt from one of these sides. I think it was this side. So you see this, that little plastic cover. And then there's another plastic cover right there, which I removed from the driver's side. So now I'm gonna start removing all the 10mm bolts, and I'm gonna lay down the oil pan right here. And then I'm gonna have to wipe it all down with some brake fluid, real clean, and then put some RTV on the edges. And hopefully the new Corvette pan goes back in smooth. So I'm gonna start with these bolts back here, the ones from the transmission. And then I'm gonna work on the 10mm. Finally, I got the old oil pan out. And this is what it looks like. So I'm gonna remove this and install the Corvette one as well. Gotta spray all this down, make sure that all the oil is off. And then I'm gonna RTV these edges right here a little bit. Just on the edges, and then put the new oil pan back in. It's kind of tight to like actually get it out. You have to kind of because since this front part is big, kind of have to, you know, find a way away from the frame in order to actually pull it out. But so this is the Corvette pickup tube, and we're gonna use the same spot up here in the front, just the bolt's gonna be on the opposite side, and we're gonna use that bolt up here, not this one anymore. So gonna pick up oil from the back of the oil pump instead of the front. And this is the part number for the pickup tube. This is the one that we got. So I'm gonna start removing these bolts. Well, this one's a nut. Start removing this one and this one. I'm gonna pull this one off, put this one back on, and I'll remove this one and install this pickup tube. And it comes with the O-ring, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of oil right there and slide it on. Let me do that real quick and I'll put you guys back on. All right, so the oil pickup tube is in. I use this bolt, that 10mm bolt right there. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wet this rag with some brake cleaner, and I'm gonna go around the edge, just clean it up real good. Then I'm gonna put some RTV on this part right here, little line, then on this side as well, possibly in the back, just on the corners right there. And then I'm gonna slide in the Corvette oil pan. So let me get to cleaning real quick. All right, so I'm done cleaning this, all the edges. And do not forget to pop out the little like freeze plug that they put in here, so that you could put your dipstick in. If you forget, then you're gonna have a hard time pulling that out. So I'm gonna pop it out, probably with a screwdriver or something. I'm gonna hit it in there, and then I'm gonna put the RTV. I'm gonna wipe it down one more time real quick with some brake cleaner again, put the RTV and slide in the oil pan. I forgot to record putting this AC bracket on. So basically slides in here, and they give you 3 different longer bolts, so you can go through the oil pan, and then you just slide in your AC compressor bolts through, and then you get it in there. And I didn't have to loosen the other bolt for the AC. It was just a tight fit down here, but it was able to go in. So right now I'm just trying to find the threads, and I'm gonna run these bolts in a little bit. Well, I'm gonna kind of get them started, and then I'm gonna tighten these bolts, and then I'm gonna tighten the AC compressor again. The AC bolts are in. This one went in all the way pretty good. This one still needs about 1/4 of an inch to go in, but I pulled it out, put it back in, and it seems to get stuck towards the end. So I think the threads on the bracket were a little off. So now, since it's getting a little late, I'm gonna just put this bolt back on and torque it down. And I'm also gonna put these 2 bolts back, the ones that go back here, put those on, and then there should be it. Oh, I might put the oil filter. I got the, what should I get? I got the Mobile 1 oil filter, so I'm gonna put that one on, and I might put some oil in it. I'm not sure. So when I show you guys the clearance between the oil pan and the bracket pinion, my finger won't even go through. Not even the pinky, but it's pretty tight in here. So yeah, so I put the bolts back on. I'm just gonna torque this one down, and then I'm gonna start putting all the covers. And I know we're gonna have to modify the cross member back here, so I'm gonna get to this real quick. All right, so this is the oil filter we went with, the Mobile 1. That's the model of the filter that we needed for the Trailblazer. We wanted to get a Wix, but we didn't have any, so we're just gonna go with this. It's the next day, and last night we stopped recording because it was too dark, so I just buttoned up some stuff under the hood, and we had to run back to the store to buy a new oil filter. I fucked up because I picked up a Trailblazer oil filter, which was the M1 107A, and that would have worked, but with the old oil pan. And so with the new C6 oil pan, what you need is the oil filter that goes with it, which is the M1 113A. This one right here. So I kind of did a dry test right now before I started recording, and it does thread on. The other one doesn't, so I'll try to put the other one in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some oil in here, and I'm gonna put it on the truck, and then we're gonna get to working on the rest of the stuff that needs to be buttoned up. So put the oil on the ring. Let me show you guys what we did under the hood. We just did the cold air intake, the windshield wiper reservoir, and the dipstick for the oil. For the oil dipstick, what we did is we had someone up here guide the tube, and I was underneath trying to see trying to get the tube into the hole, you know, and telling the person up here how to twist it and stuff. We didn't have to unbolt anything from the headers or anything. I read on a couple forums that you did, but we didn't. So everything up here is ready to go. We're just waiting for the stuff underneath to be done, so we could top it off with oil, and then we'll get this bolt back in. So I'm gonna get underneath real quick, and then I'm gonna put the new oil filter, and then we'll see what we do from there. All right, so the oil filter is in, so now we're just gonna top it off with oil so we can close the hood. All right, so I'm gonna put this back on. But before I do that, I want to tell you guys real quick that this oil pan was a hassle to put in, like in the first shot. So what I had to do was put this front section of it in here, and then kind of lift the back at an angle, and then, you know, straighten it out and then sit it in place, because there's no other way. If you just slide it in, it'll start hitting right here. So it was kind of like, you know, you had to do that, lift it from the back, then straighten it out and put it in. So now I'm gonna put these bolts in, 2 of these, and then this one it goes back here, and then I'm gonna do the little cover piece that goes here. All right, I finished putting this plastic on, and also this metal piece right here, but this back piece, it's an issue which I seen online, but I just wanted to test it, see if it was gonna fit, but it doesn't. So what I'm gonna end up doing is cutting here and here, this whole top section. I'm gonna cut it off because they also drill out some holes on the other side and flip it upside down, because it would fit upside down, but I don't feel like drilling and making new holes, so I'm just gonna cut this and weld some supports on it all across, and then I'll put it back in. So let me get the cutting first, and then I'll show you guys what we're gonna do with it. All right, so we're back under the Blazer, and what I was gonna do, as I said previously, is that I was gonna, this is supposed to go up here, and this is the bottom side. And I had seen that people flip this around and drill new holes, and I didn't want to do all that, but at the end of the day, it's almost the same thing as what I was gonna do. But I think what I was gonna do was gonna be a little bit more work, which I was gonna cut this top piece off and then reinforce the whole thing by welding some more stuff, some more metal on it. But regardless, I think I was still gonna have trouble removing the oil filter and stuff. So what I'm gonna do now is I flip this completely around and upside down, so now it clears a little bit. And now every time I do an oil change, I'm gonna have to remove this, but it's only 3 bolts, 5 bolts here and 5 bolts here. So I'm gonna put these bolts back on, and then the ones that you have to drill are are these down here. So I'm these 4, there's 2 here and 2 on the other side. So I'm gonna run these 3 in, then I'm gonna get a Sharpie and mark the holes that need to be drilled. I'm gonna pull this back out, and then I'm gonna drill the holes. So what you're gonna have to do is drill them, and then use a nut on the back side, because as you can see on the stock side, it has some nuts welded to the metal piece. So you could just use some nuts to hold the bolts in place. So let me get to that real quick, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about once I have it off. These are the holes that I marked out, kind of on the edge, but it should work fine. So I'm gonna get a step bit, and I'm gonna put it on this little drill, and I'm gonna get those holes drilled out, and then these are the bolts I have to go through it. So this is what it looks like. I put the 2 bolts back in on each side, and I put 2 nuts on the back, since we're not going to be using those up top no more, and this thing is flipped upside down. All of these 3 bolts, they all lined up. So the middle one is the longest one, the 2 on the edge are the shorter ones. This is how much clearance you guys have now. It does have to come off, because as you can see, the oil filter won't come out because of this Crossmember. And they do have an aftermarket one, but it's like 400 bucks. Probably get it in the future, but as of right now, this was our main concern, the oil starvation. So a little recap of what we did is we removed that plastic cover right there, and then we removed this Crossmember back here, the one that we just drilled out. And this one also has to come off, this whole piece right here in the middle, and that will give you access to all the 10mm bolts on the oil pan. We also loosened up the top bolt on the AC compressor. The ones on the bottom came out completely. Well, one of them came out completely, the other one kind of stayed in there, but it wasn't in the threads anymore. We also used the AC adapter bracket, which you need if you want to retain your AC compressor. This one works, so we decided to keep it. And what else? Drilled 4 holes, sorry. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and also remember to use the Corvette oil filter, not the Trailblazer one anymore. The Corvette T6 oil pan. You need the Corvette oil dipstick, and also when you have the oil pan off, do not forget to remove the plug that's on the block to enter your dipstick. because once the oil pan is off, you don't want to go through the hassle of removing all this back off just to get that little plug out. There's the hole for the dipstick, and then they just use like a super small like freeze plug type of thing. So you could use either a bolt or a screwdriver and just tap it out. And what else? Well, up top everything is buttoned up. So that's it for this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, @youngkit_OXC films. I'll leave that in the description down below, and we'll catch you in the next one.